Hey guys, welcome to another edition of
Discovering Our Journey.
I'm your host MC.
And I'm JC. Boom. Oh my gosh. Okay. We got to jump right to this.
Woo!
Yeah, because this is going to be a good one.
Oh man.
I mean, we're always talking about couples, right?
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I have been coming up to something that just keeps jumping out at me, and that's dating. Dating, because yes, we go into relationships and they've already had many years in there and they're established in some relationships and they're just like, I'm done, and then I want to bring it back though to like before the marriage, before the children, dating. Okay. Now, if you could go back to yourself, I mean, what would you really tell yourself? I think for me, it's watch their crowd a lot better. Because now more than ever, I definitely see how they are taught and they are developed by their community.
Now, when you say watch their crowd, you're talking about your partner you're choosing, right?
Right. If you like,
so you go to your partner first. I go to myself. My God, I was a mess.
What do you mean?
Well, like just what? I mean, I didn't even know what I wanted. So it's like, So we're gonna start with the other side. I want to start with myself.
Okay, fair enough. Start with yourself. So then, okay. Well, we've already talked about you got to know what you got to love yourself.
Well, see, but it's not just that though. One thing I do realize is that
Wait, are you saying like, does it matter if you're a female or a male?
I don't think it matters. See, because the one thing is this: I don't feel that we can really look upon the other person who they are, because it's just like, it's funny. It's just like the toppings we're talking about right now. When you mix something together, you just don't know how it's going to taste. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? So even though the person doesn't look ready, they don't know they're going to swink or swim until they're in the pool. So yes, we can look at their friends and it's like, ooh, look who they're hanging around. Look who they're whatever. But they got to make choices. I know that that's actually one thing that I felt like, with my relationship, I did make a choice. Because even my wife now, something we've talked about before is that when she would see me hang around my friends, she's like, you kind of talk different and stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah. It's like, because when I'm with her, I try to speak more eloquently and, more like certain words, and I try. And my Spanish was horrible back then, but so just in English, I was good. Spanish, I'm still working on it, but getting better. But the thing is that, when I would speak to my friends, it was pretty, a little ghetto.
Okay.
Little ghetto. So
you had like two faces.
Well, you can call it two faces.
You're like Grease, right? You were like,
yeah, you're like, what, Sandy who and stuff.
Right? Yes.
We're like, well, I don't know Sandy. Well,
right? Exactly.
So,
but that's
what I'm
saying. That's understandable. Yeah. But when I say community, though, I think more like the family. Okay, the family dynamics, the sibling dynamics, the gathering, the going to church, and the hobbies. Okay, because let me stop like right you there. Said, no, but like you said, like you are grown up in this environment, and you are heavily influenced. So if dad doesn't say anything, are you going to be okay for your wife to be like on top, or vice versa? Or is he a kidder? Are they like what?
I know, but see, okay, so here's the thing with my situation, right? My situation, when I met my wife, there's a big joke going around because I always say I told her I'm an only child, and my wife is like, oh, you're an orphan. And I'm an only child, and I live with my grandmother. And she's like, oh, all right, I got grandmother. She met the grandmother, loves the grandmother. Grandmother's like buttoning her up and everything.
She's like, check.
Yeah, she's like, check. What?
Single check.
Shit. So I was like, so she was happy, right? Well, come to find out, my father remarried and, had more kids, and my mother remarried and had other kids. And again, at the moment I did live with my grandmother. At the moment
I was a single child.
No. I told her I was an only child. I never said single. See, I said I'm an only child from my mother and my father. I never said that I didn't have other siblings.
Oh my gosh, there you go again.
So it's the key all over again.
You remember that?
Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to say it. If you guys know what you're talking about, it was the key all over again. All right. So And it's true. I didn't have a really good relationship with my father at the time, so I really didn't talk to him. And my mother, she was really busy with things going on, so I really, I was talking to her, but I didn't have that close of a relationship with her because she was doing things, and and I was living with my grandmother.
Yeah.
So I didn't introduce my mother. I didn't introduce my mother until like maybe 4 or 5 months down the road. You know what I'm saying? And it's not, how can I say it? Our dynamic with my mother and me were more like, even like my grandmother would say, it's like you're like brother and sister, because I would tell my grandmother on my mom would tell her on me, so we would have this different relationship.
Like who's the parent?
Yeah, like who's the parent?
Yeah.
So I didn't want her to see that, right? It's not like my mother was a bad person or nothing like that,
right.
But it was just one of those things where, no, I showed her the cute granny and stuff that would make all this food and this and that. And, oh, here you go, mija, this and that. So she buttered her up and stuff. I'm like, yeah. So it wasn't until once you got the hook in, that's when you're like, oh, here. By the way, let me introduce you to my stepdad and my stepmom and my father and my mother and my sisters and my brothers and this and that. And, oh,
okay,
my God.
I am sure that she already saw through you. I'm sure. So that the fact that you said that you were like the greaser, okay, you stretch the truth, and essentially you tiptoe on right and wrong, and I'm sure she saw that from you, and she accepted it. Okay, so but when
she said she had no choice. She said, "You already hooked me in and stuff." With the grandmother,
I was already in the net.
Yeah, exactly. My grandmother already got her in, so she's like, "Oh, you gotta thank your grandmother. Your grandmother hooked me good." And it's like, yeah, I was like, "Well, I gotta you bait and switch." It's like,
but it's important to know. But so she knew that. Yeah. She knew that, and she accepted it. But when I'm saying it's important, the community. Because we always talk about growth, and we always grow, and we always change slightly. Yeah. But when you notice that they were in like sports, that means, hey, their parents were taught that you start and you finish something, so they have some discipline. When you see awards and trophy, that says that their goal and they're set, they set bars for themselves. Like little things like that is what I'm saying means something. So
okay, right there, real quick though, I can tell you that I was like in 20 different sports because I never finished nothing.
See, you didn't finish it.
I know, but then that's why I'm universal. I can play tennis and I can samba. You know what I'm saying? So I got and I can bowl and I can yeah, exactly. And I can play racquetball and I can play baseball and I can play football. I got all these sports, so it's like
that you can play it is different. The way that you can play it is different, but that you started and finished it. It says a whole lot of something. So when you're dating, I really think it's so important to focus on community. At least that's what I would say to JC Jr. If I was speaking to her face to face. I would say, hey, these are the do's and don'ts in life, because it's what I had to learn from the hard way. So let me shed a little bit of wisdom, or share a little bit of wisdom with you on that. Now, just as much as the community influences you, hence why our partners always say, you're just like your mom. You're just like your dad, because they're the ones that most heavily influenced you.
No, and I get it, but I just really hard to judge, someone by their community. And I will tell you this.
Really?
Well, I will tell you this, because again, if I was judged by my community, I had been in trouble. So
weren't you already?
Well, no, not really. But the thing is, because I adopted my wife's community. When I came into the fold, it's like I try to be like, oh, I'm like you guys. It's like, oh, cool, this and that. It got along great with the father, the mother, the sister, the brother. It was like, this and that. So it's like I adapted to that because I never had that to work with. That.
So you were trying to become.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to.
Well, I knew that it wasn't. I mean, even the fact that, working with my mother, one of the big thing was we never really ate at any time. With my brothers and I and my mom, we would all eat at different times.
You guys would never sit.
We never really know. So it's like, what do I work with there?
Yeah.
And then I went to go live with my father, and then my father was the type that sit at the table. Wow. Of course, the only thing that was really weird to me was that we couldn't talk at the table, which I'm sure maybe you folks.
No, not really, not really.
Some folks. Look, I've heard different things.
I thought it was weird too, but actually, when I ask a lot of people, they say the same thing. Like, yeah, they weren't allowed to talk. I was like, I thought it was only a me thing. But they weren't allowed to talk. They said because it would mess with your digestion. That's what they were told. And I was like,
a lot of air. Okay, a lot of air as your. It's like,
hey, like I said, weird, but it is true.
But that's the thing. So that's what I'm saying. So I didn't have a lot to work with. So it's almost like judging someone that's in low income family or whatever by their surroundings. And it's hard to really show who you are until you're
Mm-hmm.
put into that pool that I'm telling you about. So
Mm-hmm.
when I started going out with, with my girlfriend, wife now, but girlfriend at the time, I represented someone way different. I was like, my family was the Huxtables and, Family Ties and all these, that was my family, was TV. Like, seriously, that's a good and bad thing because, it's a good thing in one way, but a bad thing because then you get high hopes and expectations that aren't true,
Oh,
so I know, but that's all I had to work with.
I understand.
None of my
I know.
none of my family members. I'm the oldest of my cousins, my brothers, my everybody. So I had no one to even reflect on. The marriages that were within my small circle of family and friends of family was not the greatest. So example. So it's like I didn't have nothing to work with.
But that's what I'm saying is that now, as an adult, as a mature mother, I can see that the community will tell me a lot. So when I tell my daughter, my son, put their for their potential partners, I hope they listen, and I hope I say it in a way where it makes sense and it's not like to offend. Because my
I
job as a
think it's
mother is
tricky.
always to teach.
I know, but I think it's tricky to tell someone, "Hey, watch where the community." I do get where you're coming from.
But this is also what I'm saying. This is why I want to talk about this topic because as I'm talking to friends who are going through issues now, surprisingly, I say, "Hey, did your parents approve of this relationship?" And they almost all say no. Oh yeah, no. They did not like him from the start. Your community is throwing yellow flags at you and you're just not, so that's going to show you right there that you're just like, no. And now years later, now you're just like, oh, so I think this is why it's important that we share it, not to shame anyone, because hey,
Well,
God knows we've all made our mistakes, right? And we're sharing this to help develop
yeah.
others
I
and
mean, I
not make the
mean,
same mistake.
and I'm not saying not to focus on the community, but how they handle the community could be a difference. Like I said, she saw, maybe I've never asked her, but because she, like, oh, sometimes you start talking that way and stuff, and a couple curse words and this and that. I mean, we're talking when I was like 19 years old, so it's like, and it's like sometimes she's like,
A couple of curse words?
yeah, exactly. If you grew up in the 90s, you know what I'm talking about. It's like every curse word. So it's like, that's just the way that I would talk. And she's like, and sometimes she would feel a little weird. Like I could notice, like, oh, shoot, am I saying too much? Like it was just so natural, like just in my habitat to talk the way I was. But I know that wasn't the way to do it. But, when in Rome,
Yeah.
do like the Romans sometimes.
Yeah.
So maybe she saw that effort, because that's what I think that even matters even more in a way, like what you're saying. Look at their community, but I guess the real thing is look how they are in their community. Are they just part of it?
That's it.
Okay.
That's
Then
it.
that I can
Not
see.
just look at their
Okay.
community and
Okay.
judge them on it. Oh, just because they go to church.
Yeah.
No,
No, of
it's
course not judge
how
them, but just I wasn't thinking judging at
what
all.
part of that cog are they playing?
Yeah.
Not just
or not just
the
that cog of that
topical.
part, but like where do they see themselves where they want to be, show a different side of you. It's like
Sure. Sure.
so it's like it could be, I mean, it could be something as silly as, one thing that me and my wife had sometimes is like she would, be like, oh, let's go get some fast food. And for me, fast food was, Jack in the Box, Carl's Jr. if I had money, because Carl's Jr. was always been expensive. And then, of course, my number one go to was Burger King. But for my wife, fast food was Denny's, Caro's, it's like big boys or whatever. It's like a restaurant.
Definitely.
That was fast food for her.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, dang, that's fast food. I was like, that's not that fast. They don't got coupons and stuff. So it's like, oh, man, the sides are extra. Oh, shoot. Okay, no problem, But it was just how we perceived I never went to Denny's or anything like that. That wasn't, it's funny. It's like if we was something, it's either going to be like something more fancier, like I could say Olive Garden, back then it's like Olive Garden, or it would be something simple as it'd be like, taco shop or fast food. That was it. Those were my levels. It's either here or here.
Yeah.
I learned a whole new world of like the lower end stuff and like Denny's and stuff. I never went to Denny's and stuff. So it's just how you are sometimes, and I'm not saying to judge, but see how they want to thrive, be better, be different and stuff like that. That is important, because if they're stuck in that whole mentality, then I guess I kind of get what you're saying about watching the community.
That is another one too. Now, like you said, the community also can give you some, negative sides too. And so that goes to say, like, if they're involved in alcoholism, drug abuse,
Gangs,
adultery,
gangs.
thieves, like, or do they thieve, like it tells you a lot about them. It
Yeah.
does.
Again, I just,
Now, it's not to judge, but
yeah,
you go in knowing,
yeah,
you go in understanding,
yeah.
where are they, what do you want, what do they want, and their values, their morals.
I never belonged to any gang or any affiliation with anything, but I had a lot of different friends. And sometimes I was the odd one out because I was like the only guy, the only guy dressed in like anchor blues and like a colors shirt and stuff like that, or a Levi's shirt. And all of my other friends were like Dickies and Pendletons and folded. And even sometimes I'd be like, introduce some certain friends to, my wife, my girlfriend back then. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm like, I don't know you, dude. I was like, it's like, I would feel a little ashamed and stuff like that from where,
Right.
where I would hang out because it's
Right.
like, I get that. And not to diss them or nothing or whatever, because they were who they were
Right.
and I was who I was.
Yeah.
So, but I did at one point, merge and introduce them. And it's like, yeah, this is where I came from. But, I don't have to dress like them. I don't have to act like them. I don't have to whatever. And that's where I came from, and
Right.
it was just, it's tough though.
It
It's
is.
very influential
It
because
is.
I had family members that
Yeah.
were very influenced by them, by that type of lifestyle and stuff. And I'm like, hey, just be you, And they were just like, they were growing up in it, and it just felt really naturally to be like, well, I'm just gonna be like that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, no, I
tough.
get it. But I think the most important part of it all, that those things, the positives and the negatives, those are just for you to understand what you want, if you're gonna have goals, and just it gives you so much more clear vision as to what's gonna happen in the future, because we all kind of change. We all
Oh yeah.
adjust, and we all kind of
We all
start
change.
to.
There's no such thing as no change. There's
Right.
change.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens through the mature your wants in life, your goals in
Exactly.
life, aspirations, your just different things that it all changes, and it changes with your partner all the time,
Absolutely.
and your partner changes, and you change, and then you adapt, and they adapt. I mean, that's how it's supposed to work, and it's just so much change. That's why there's no real way to pick the perfect person, because you're constantly changing. And we're talking someone in their 20s, someone in their 30s, someone in their 40s, someone in their
Oh
50s. It's
yeah,
like
every chapter is
all
always
those is
something
just,
new.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, I think the biggest one that I would say is for me, that I would want to focus on the most now, like talking with mature eyes, is watching the discipline and the love. That's the main number one for me, that I'm just like, hey, if you're looking for a partner, look for the discipline and the love. Because that essentially, you're going to grow from that, yes, but when your children come up and you want a family, how does that look?
Now you say the love in what sense?
The love, as to like, what do you consider love? Because everyone considers love a little bit different.
Oh,
Some are a little bit more with words, and some are a little bit more with physical touch. Some are a little bit just like with time. We could just sit by the couch and watch TV. That's love. Sometimes it's just cleaning the house together. So many things can be considered love.
and see, those are, and this is a tough subject for me because I've gone through different ideas and feelings of how what love is, and to me, you know, if you're going to look at love in that sense, yes, I feel that there's so many different parts of loving someone. I guess you could
Mm,
say, because I don't want to say love, loving someone. So loving someone is how you show affection, how you show time, how you
yeah.
show. That's why they have the book, five languages of love, five or four.
Oh yeah, for the five
Five,
love
five, five
languages.
language.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes we get confused with the word love and
Yeah.
loving. So
Yeah.
let's stick with loving someone is five different ways you can love someone.
That's a
Loving
great
someone.
book. I mean, I
So
hope everybody reads that book
it's
when it's
very,
their
yeah,
turn to get ready.
especially for oneself to understand themselves, even
Yeah.
how they like to be loved or how they like to. So it's very important. So loving someone, the word love, to love someone, to me is basically the fact that you are willing to overlook whatever it is to keep moving forward. That is what the word love to me
When you're
means.
willing to overlook
Yeah,
anything.
not anything, just things to always make it better. In other words, and I don't mean overlooked by the fact that someone's,
So don't make a big hill out of something
Yes, exactly,
small.
exactly. That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
We're not
Okay.
talking about things that are we're not talking about things that are forgivable. Adultery, abuse. All these things that are no.
Like
Those are
he
those.
didn't give me
Yeah,
flowers. The
exactly,
expectations and
perfect. Let's say it like that. It's overlooking expectations
yeah,
because
that's
that I've said it before in other casts.
I've fallen short there and I've learned from that definitely
That
big
right there
time.
is one of the key
Yeah.
things of expectations is a love killer,
Yeah.
emotional killer. It when we put those expectations a certain way, and again, and I'm not saying that sometimes someone, they always say, right, oh, you're in the honeymoon stage because all these expectations are getting built up. Oh, he brings me flowers every day. He cooks breakfast every Saturday. This is and that. And see, sometimes these, guys and girls maybe, do these expectation things, and it's like that's why they call it the whole love thing because all these expectations are building from what, whoa, dang, we've been together for a month and he's showing me great things, and oh, it's a
Right.
year and it's great
Right.
things, and then that's why the whole thing is like, oh, well, you're over the honeymoon stage, which is really the expectation
So let's
stage.
park it here really quick
All right.
because I mean, would it be fair to say to someone, especially so I think females we're very emotional,
Okay.
right? And so sometimes we want a little bit more physical, sometimes we want a little more touch and stuff. And so I mean, would it be almost like fair to say if I'm getting upset and I've already told you, "Hey, I need love this way." I mean, would it be fair to say take accountability that you're lacking. Don't take it as a punch in the gut and just adjust. So that way you're not making it like you said.
Well, here's the thing. The thing with asking for something. A lot of times in return when people get into these situations, a lot of times when you ask the other person, "Or do you feel like you are?" It could be a cop out, it could be whatever, but sometimes a lot of times they're going to say no. They're not
Mm,
feeling it either. So then you're opening a whole different can of worms and stuff like that. That there has to be communication, there has to be an understanding, and sometimes love is one of those things where sometimes just as simple as my wife, she got hurt a while back, and I was massaging her feet, you know, and then one time it seemed like I was a little frustrated. So she's like, "Babe, you don't have to massage my feet," because I was frustrated. And I said, "You know what? I actually, no, yeah, you're right. I am frustrated, but it has nothing to do with you. And trust me, I don't massage your feet because, because it's like, oh, I'm trying to make you feel good. If I can heal you in any which way that God can give me the power, to me, I don't feel it like a task, like, oh my God,
mm.
you know,
So that is a form of love. It's a form of
it's a
love
form
that
of
you're
love
like,
that
hey, I'm
that
doing it.
but it's a form of love that I had to understand. I don't feel it like, oh, it's 6 o'clock, I gotta go massage your feet. No, I'm like, oh, it's 6 o'clock, oh, she needs her medicine. It's like she needs this.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to be sick. Sometimes you see your wife, or you see your husband hurt a certain way, and you come up and you give him a little massage or a little whatever. It shouldn't feel like a task. And
Yeah.
if it does feel like a task, then you have to work on that to feel why does it feel like
Yep.
a task. Because
Yep.
and that's where it starts. See, you might be like, but I tell him, but I tell her, what? But see, that's the thing. The person has to really, really realize, why do I feel like it's a task, like I'm doing this, or am I expecting something? That's where it has to start with the person individually.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, that's always
So,
that's really, really good. And so here's the crazy thing that I find about speaking back on community.
mhm,
I think what's sad is to hear when people, and now this is taking a little sidestep from relationship and more talking about people in general
mhm.
in your community. It's sad to hear when people um, commit suicide. It's so sad to hear that they are in a community and they feel so lonely and no one is there, no leader is there to actually watch over them, check on them, or have a concern for them. We need to be very mindful of who and what's happening in our community.
That's a very deep subject
It's
there.
deep. It's deep.
And there's a lot of stuff that's within my family that I've dealt with in that form, and all I could say is that, not to go into it too deep, but the thing is that it's just something that I think just, recently started being talked about a lot more. I experienced a loss with my brother, and there was a lot of misunderstandings with him. He put himself in a situation that, took his life. And honestly, some people say, oh, well, he was suffering from a mental situation. Some people say, well, he was just lost. And the point was, you know, for whatever reason, we weren't able to help him at the time that we tried.
Right.
So he was lost. He was not sure of who he was. So you can call it whatever you want. You can call it, he was having, mental issues and whatever. But the point is, when that happened, like I tried to look for information, and I feel like within the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of this information is a lot more accessible than when it
Yes.
happened with him.
Yes. And that's
And,
why I bring it up,
and,
because when I hear it's like really, it's a very big topic right now. It's we got to take care of our community. We got to stay positive, and we got to keep watch when we can.
it's just very difficult to figure out because we have so much, some of my brothers, when he was going through this situation, said, hey, trust me, I feel the same way. Life sucks, this and that, blah blah blah. Yeah, I feel like I don't want to be here either, blah blah blah. But the thing is that I feel that we just don't know sometimes what they're capable of. My mother did go to a after this happened with my brother, went to a one of those places that, go after, you lost someone, in this way. And there's people that were sharing, were like, there was no signs, this and that happened. And one day it's like he just jumped off a bridge, and it's like, what the heck? But no signs. It's like, no, I mean, we weren't there to know. And I can tell you from my experiences, was there signs? Yes.
Yes, there is.
But
Yes,
was
there
there?
is. We're just all consumed in what we got to do, that
But
we forget. And you will easily say, "Well, why didn't they speak up? Why didn't they tell me?" Well,
it's a lot of embarrassment, though.
of course it
It's a
is.
lot of embarrassment. Trust me, I've gone myself through certain changes emotionally that, it's. I'm not going to say that I've never contemplated it, because it's true. I hated life. I was at one point where it's like, hey, I'm ready. When you ready? You come and
Yeah.
get me? Because I just didn't understand myself.
And can I'm going to take a wild swing at this one.
Mhm.
I'm going to take a wild swing at this one. Just hearing the whole understanding on both sides, because like you said, I've talked to those that said I said I was done, and I'm sorry, I've been one of them. I'm as positive as I can be, but we all hit that bottom. Okay. And so when you when you don't have goals, when you don't have communities, like you don't go to church, you don't like have a sports group, when you don't have community, you will wake up, you will go to work, you get your check, you pay your bills, you have the little bit of fun that you can, and that usually consists of partying just to forget, of what's happening around you. And when you put yourself in this cycle, because I was there, that's when I'm just like, dude, I don't know what to do anymore. Here, I'm done. Like you said, I'm ready. Beam me up, Scotty. But when I finally said, you know what? I'm going to have a clear mind, and I'm going to wake up, and I'm going to do exercises, and I'm going to do my work. After the 8 hours of work, I'm going to go ahead and spend it with my kids. And then I'm gonna put them in sports, and then this and then that. Like the more I put on myself to stop looking at myself and looking more outer in my community, I started to figure out and understand that there's people like that because they're only looking at themselves. So that's my wild swing. Are you maybe looking at yourself and not looking around you? And we say love is
What,
selfless.
what,
So does it kind of make sense? Maybe, or maybe it's a wild swing. But I really think, like now thinking and hearing and seeing how we talked about love being selfless,
mhm.
I think it might help.
And you know what? Because you had your kids and because you had other stuff to focus on, yeah, that could be a route where you can grow yourself and be like, look, I need to be here for this, or I need to be here for that. In my situation with no kids, I had to really dig deep And I think, and I'll ask you this question, because even though we might have went through different paths to grow, did you like who you were back then?
No.
See, and that's the thing.
I didn't know who I was.
And see, and that's the thing, guys. It's like sometimes, you know, I don't think whoever ever comes up to you and say, "Hey, so do you like who you are right now?" Who's gonna ask that deep question? No one's gonna really ask someone, because trust me, if someone would have asked me, I probably would have broke down and be like, "Yes, I hate myself. I don't know why this." I would have broke down. And a lot of people, like you said,
Yeah.
a lot of people that know who I am and how I've been would be crazy to ever think that I ever thought about, you know, just making a left turn off the Coronado Bridge and just, you know,
I know.
just go. Nobody would
I
even
know.
think that that was even possible. Like, not MC. There's no way. There's no way that they would think that I would even think about that stuff. But because I was in a position where I didn't love myself,
Yeah.
you know, even though I had fun with all my friends, we'd go out drinking, dancing, whatever. And I was like, no, you're having a good time. I mean, we see this all the time with celebrities, you know, so it's like us normal people aren't, you know, we're the same dang people.
But see, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm telling you, I think my wild swing might be something of a hit, because when
But
I
you're
look
saying
at that,
focus on that.
no, but when I look at that, how you said, how look at the rich, how they even are, there is good success and there's bad success. I mean,
Well,
and it's all what you make of it, right? Because life is a strategy. But when you have good success, that means you got what you need, because we all need things to survive, and you kind of got what you want too, and that kind of makes that ball spin nice. But when you have bad success, you can be rich, but you know what? At what expense did you get that at? Did you let go of your family to pursue your career? Did you commit adultery to keep your career? What did you do? Are you fully happy and content? Did you sell out? There's so many things that can happen with good success and bad success.
Yeah, and I mean,
That's a whole nother topic,
yeah,
though.
that's definitely a
That's
whole
deep.
nother topic. As far as though, as like I said, understanding someone that's going through stuff like this, it's just one of those issues where it's really tough. We got to make sure that, you know, we if someone does need help, definitely reach out to professionals that can
Yeah.
help, because that's the number one thing, you know. And someone who is hurt like I was, you know, at the time, I there was times that I would scream out for help, and I feel like people were like, "Oh, it's just you're just having it one of those days." And it's like, no, man, it's just you know, I was
See,
trying to
but
be honest.
was that your drinking buddies in the same circle? Because I'm sure they've gone through it too. That's why they tell you, "Hey, it's all good, man. You're
Yeah,
just losing it."
but
But
it
when you're in a healthy environment, when you are, in kickball groups, in church events, and like they hear that and they're like, "Whoa, whoa," because they're in the right state of mind. They're clear minded. I'm telling you,
but see, I
your
don't
groups
think
have a
the
lot.
groups that I did, I don't think they really recognized it though. That's the thing. I don't think they recognized, some of the groups that I was in recognized what I was going through, because I was hiding it very well. So
Yeah, I got you though. I got you.
it's one of those things where it's really hard. It's a difficult situation.
So remember, I mean, if I can take anything away from this whole thing, it's that know that your groups are your main influencers. They really are.
Yeah.
They can be there for positives, negatives. They can even save you from yourself. When they see you slipping away the wrong way, they can actually protect you and be like, "Hey, that's not like you,"
Yeah.
or be your crutch. Even sometimes we need it.
And sometimes we can reach out to strangers. Like sometimes I know,
Yeah.
believe it or not, I've called the hotline a couple times before. So I don't think I sometimes feel like if the group is there and they're able to and you're able to do that, great. But if you're not, just reach out and talk to somebody. Reach out
Absolutely.
and talk to somebody, because it's one of those important things where it's like, you know, no one's just going to come up to you and be like, "Hey, so how do you really feel about yourself?" Like I said,
Mm.
that quick question. So reach out, guys. Always reach out to someone. If you feel like someone does, you know, point them in a direction, because there might be a little bit of shame, a little bit of embarrassment. So, you know, it's one of those things that's still kind of taboo-ish, you know. So, but definitely reach out for help. Reach out for that person one on one. Really talk to these people. And if it's you that feel this way, please reach out for some help.
And remember, there's no growth
Hey,
until next time.
next time, guys.